For most of its life, the Great Sphinx was buried up to its neck in sand. Yet somehow, the head is the least eroded part of the entire monument. Make that make sense. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most famous monuments on Earth. Millions of people have stood in front of it. Millions have taken the same photograph. But I want to show you an angle of the Sphinx no one ever shows. Everyone is obsessed with the head. But once you move through the crowds to the back of the Great Sphinx, you can clearly see the problem for yourself. Look at the proportions from here, and you can clearly see that the head is way smaller than the body it sits on. And ask yourself, does that head really look like it belongs to that body? And why is this so important? Because remember, the ancient Egyptians understood proportion, they understood symmetry, they built temples, statues, obelisks, and monuments with astonishing precision. So why does one of the most important monuments in Egypt appear so out of balance? Why does the body feel ancient and massive whilst the head feels smaller, sharper, and somehow different? The question alone is enough to make the Sphinx mystery important. But then comes the erosion. Look closely at the body. Look at the sides. Look at the enclosure walls surrounding it. The limestone is rounded. The surface is heavily worn. The walls show deep vertical weathering patterns running down the stone. Now compare that to the head. The difference is obvious. The face is cleaner. The features are more defined. The erosion does not appear to match the body below it. And that creates a serious problem because the Sphinx was not always sitting fully exposed like it is today. For long periods of its known history, it was buried in sand. Ancient records show it. Early photographs show it. Even in relatively recent times, the Sphinx was covered up to its neck. Only the head rose above the desert. Generations after generations saw little more than a great stone's face staring out of the sand. So here's the question. If the body was protected beneath the sand and the head was exposed to the wind and weather, why does the body appear more eroded? Why does the exposed part look better preserved than the buried part? That is where the mystery begins to deepen, because one of the possibilities is that the head we see today was not the original head. Some researchers have suggested that the Sphinx may have been recarved, that someone at some point in the distant past inherited an older monument and reshaped the head into the face we see today. And if that happened, several strange details suddenly begin to line up. The head would become smaller because you can only remove material, you can only cut it down. The water erosion that is theorized could only have been caused by precipitation over thousands of years would start to make a lot more sense if the dating of the Sphinx was pushed further back. So are we looking at a timeline problem? Because the standard view places the Great Sphinx in the Old Kingdom connected to Pharaoh Khafre. But if parts of the monument show weathering that predates that period, we may be looking at something older, something inherited, something later Egyptians restored, modified, and claimed.